said, everyone needs a Friday off. Are you sure? I'm like, here.
I do have this if you want.
Oh, for the morning?
I'm not doing it. I'm
I'll have to,
or I can give it to them.
you're all set. Oh, it's just me. I'm standing in here. Real. I did it. So I got my cast off. As long as the hands are good, you know, I can sleep. It's the coronation holiday.
Coronation.
Thank you.
Did you get a crown? Where's your crown?
You want me to?
You want to do a bunch of stuff? A bunch of stuff. And then I just was gonna hold the mic.
Hey, go on, hang on. You're not on camera, but let's hear you.
So nice, what a pleasure to have a teacher of music. Whose bat mitzvah is 3 weeks, 3 weeks away, and yeah, so we're excited. So let's do a Maya Bet Hayo. Oh yeah, Maya Bet Hayo. What a beautiful day! Maya Bet Hayo. Shabbat Shalom.
tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, la 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 la. Hine ma tov, la 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 la. Hine ma tov manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. This morning, Chief Rabbi Sir Ephraim Mervis tweeted, "How the times have changed. On the 3rd of September in the year 1189, at the coronation of King Richard I, Jews were barred from the ceremony, but a few well-meaning leaders of the English Jewish community brought gifts to celebrate the new king. A pogrom immediately broke out and over 30 innocent Jews were murdered, including the chief rabbi of that day. But on this Shabbat, Rabbi Mervis is welcome to the palace. He's given room and board so that he can not only observe the Jewish Sabbath, but be part of blessing a new monarch tomorrow morning at the coronation. Our Shabbat will not be about this monarchy, of which many might have mixed feelings, but we will celebrate and learn about the Jewish attitudes and customs and legends about coronations, crowns, kings, and queens. We, of course, realize that the true monarch is the eternal God, and God gave us the gift of Shabbat and said, let's bring in Shabbat by lighting candles. So can I have all our youth come to help light the candles and usher in this Shabbat? All of our young folks. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you so much. The Sabbath is likened to a bride and a queen, and Lecha Dodi is the song that we sing to welcome her. Oh, you want to go? Boikala, 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 boikala. Lecha Dodi, mikatala, b'nei Shabbat. Boikala, 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 boikala. we rise together for our call to worship by which we bless the eternal God. My way, you know it? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? La la la, la 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 la. Our affirmation and our bowing is not to any human monarch, but indeed to the one God and God alone, who we affirm with the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. And we are seated. King Solomon had a magic crown which made everybody as wise as could be. But no one could wear the crown, because as soon as they put it on their heads, they became wiser and had all of the understanding in the world, and therefore they understood all the sorrow in the world. And so indeed it was impossible to wear the crown. And so because the king could not use the crown, he had a servant throw it away, and the servant threw it into a lake near the king's palace. But when the crown, being so heavy, sank to the bottom of the lake, it landed on the head of the huge lake monster called the mudluck. And with this crown upon his head, the mudluck became immensely knowledgeable about all things: language, science, math, engineering, and philosophy. And coming up from the bottom of the lake with his crown on, he had more strength than any other being in the world. And he started to attack people in Solomon's kingdom because it had so much strength and intelligence, no one knew what to do. But King Solomon was a wise man even without his crown, and so he knew he could face the monster. He said, "I know you could devour me if you wanted. I am no match for you physically, but maybe I can defeat you in a battle of intellect." And the beast with the crown on its head accepted the challenge. "Very well," said Solomon. "Then I challenge you to say something that isn't very wise." Now the mudluck, because he was wearing the crown of wisdom, was unable to think of a single unwise thing to say, and he struggled with all of his might to come up with something foolish. And he couldn't win the challenge, and so in anger he ripped off the crown and threw it on the ground at Solomon's feet. "I can't. You've won the battle of wits." And then, grinning an evil grin, he said, "But I am still strong enough to eat you." And the mudluck came stomping up to King Solomon with his giant clawed feet. And the king quickly picked up his crown and placed it on his head, and he immediately knew what he would have to do to defeat the mudluck. he took his spear and he punctured between the mudlark's eyes where his evil heart was. And at that moment, all of the evil started to spout out from the mudlark's heart, and he became docile and kind, and he slithered away and went back into the swamp and was never heard from again. And after that, King Solomon decided that whether it brought him sadness or not, he would wear that crown on his head because it was the safest place for a world of wisdom. We continue with another song where the evil has oozed away and we are all free. The Micha Mocha. This one you know? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Micha Mocha ba'eli madyohunai. Micha Mocha neda ba'kodesh. Micha Mocha ba'eli madyohunai. Micha Mocha neda ba'kodesh. Lo ratehi lo oseh. Lo ratehi oseh. Adonai lidog le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. When we think of crowns, we think of the headpieces that monarchs wear, but actually, as we might see tomorrow at the coronation, there are many different types of crowns. There are coronets and tiaras that mark royalty. Some believe that the circle of gold that surrounds a monarch's head is supposed to remind us of the halos that the angels had, that God's holiness is somehow apparent in the individual, and indeed that is shining. Jewish tradition, however, had a different kind of head ornament that they called, of all things, the Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, which many people will think is a song, and it is a song in Israel. But indeed, its original origin comes from a legend in the Talmud about the unschooled, poor shepherd Akiva, and how he married the rich daughter of Ben Kalba Savua. She was so in love with him, and he was so poor that she was cast out of her household by the rich aristocrat, her father, and they had to sleep on a ground in straw. In fact, Akiva loved his bride so much that one morning they woke up and she had straw in her hair, and he said, "Someday I will take this straw and turn it into a Yerushalayim Zahav, a golden Jerusalem." And indeed it happened. Rachel, as she's called by tradition, sent Rabbi Akiva off to study, and she let him be away 40 years while she raised her children in poverty. She even had to cut and sell her hair to make ends meet. But sure enough, Rabbi Akiva came back as one of the greatest scholars, and indeed the head of the later rabbinic court, and he indeed was able to give his wife the beautiful crown that she wanted, a Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, a golden Jerusalem. And we are told in the Talmud that an image of this landscape of Israel done in gold was a crown that women wore as a very fancy ornament. In fact, it was such a sign of vanity, it was never worn on Shabbat. If you go to the Aldura synagogue, you see a picture of Esther painted there with what looks like a whole city on her head. And indeed, it is that was the Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, which then later became an important song for our people. And so it is that we remember not only Esther, not only Rachel, but also the greats of our people as we turn to the Amidah. And if you'd like to follow along, it's on page 4. And we rise. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 satai tika. Na 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 ufi yagi. Ufi yagi tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 satai tika. Na 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 ufi yagi. Ufi yagi tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 satai tika. Na 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 ufi yagi. Ufi yagi tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 sfatai tiva. Na 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 ufi yagi. Ufi yagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur Bahanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei Hakol V'zocher Chaste Avot V'imahot Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem Laman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibur le'olam Adonai Mechayei hakol atah Rav laHoshia Mechalkel chayim b'chesed Mechayei hakol b'rachamim rabim So make no flim b'rofei cholim Umatir asurim, umakayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidom melach, melech meimit umachayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. It is said that one day King Solomon was traveling in the heat of the sun and he wanted somehow to be cool and shaded. So he called forth the vultures and said, please be a shield, fly over me to protect me from the sun's rays. But they refused to help, and he cursed them as a punishment, removed feathers from their neck, and that's why vultures have bare necks. King Solomon went on his way, but the heat grew worse than ever, and finally in the distance he saw a funny little bird called a hoopoe, and he called aloud to the hoopos and said, "Please, please, will you fly over me and shield me from the rays of the sun?" And the hoopoe said, "We are small and feeble birds, but we will do our best." And so the hoopos came nearer and nearer and formed themselves into a close flock, and they flew over the king until he arrived at his palace at sunset. The king said, "You hoopos are so wonderful, I will give you any reward that you want for your kindness for shielding me." But the hoopoe said, "We don't really know what we should even ask for." And so the king said, "Please come back tomorrow with your request." The king of the hoopos went home, and he saw that his wife was looking in front of the mirror, and she was fluffing her feathers. And he said, "What reward should I choose?" And his wife said, "Let us ask for golden crowns to wear on our heads, so we will look finest of all the birds." And so the king of the hoopos returned to King Solomon and said his wish was for golden crowns for all the hoopos. And King Solomon smiled and said, "Are you sure that's what you want?" And the king of the hoopos said, "Well, my wife said to ask for it, so that's what I'm asking for." "Very well, your wish will be granted." And so the hoopoe king flew away, and when he reached home, every hoopoe had a beautiful golden crown on his head. And they looked magnificent, and the hoopos held themselves up so much taller than they ever had before. But unfortunately, their happiness did not last long, because one day a bird catcher caught a hoopoe and found out that the crown on its head was pure gold, and that hoopoe was worth so much money that people put out traps everywhere for the hoopoe birds to take their crowns away. And indeed, the hoopos found that their vanity and their desire for a crown was indeed a punishment and not a reward. And so the weary king of the hoopos came back to Solomon and said, "We have to ask for another favor." And the king said, "What is it?" And the hoopoe said, "We want our crowns to be removed." The hoopoe told his story and said the crown was not a very wise gift at all. And King Solomon said, "It's not the crown that matters, it's the gold that the crown is made of. And so keep your crown as a sign of my thanks. And now it will be a crown of feathers." And if you look up the picture of the little hoopoe bird, you will see that the hoopoe bird, which is the national bird of the state of Israel, have feather crowns now, so that they can indeed be rewarded for their wisdom and their strength, but will have peace and quiet once again. We pray for the hoopoe peace with our prayer, Shalom Rav. I bet you know this. You got it. You know it.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Chasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael
to our prayer for peace, we add for peace and healing for individuals in our community and in our world who are in need of healing and hope. The Misha Berach prayer asks that God bless us, if not necessarily with a cure, with the strength to walk with whatever burdens we carry. And so we offer this Misha Berach prayer for all of those who are struggling with addiction or abuse, for all who are ill in our community, and for these individuals that we mention now. Sue Taylor. And for all of those who we name in our hearts, we pray for healing and wholeness. Misha Berach. We add our own private prayers and meditations to the prayers that we have just sung.
This is the moment as time rolls by, for my silent prayer to Adonai. Prayer of thanks for all my blessings, prayer of compassion for all in need, a prayer of knowledge for I keep guessing, a prayer between God and me. Close your eyes, say a prayer. Adonai will be there. Prayer of thanks for all my blessings, prayer of compassion for all in need, a prayer of knowledge for I keep guessing, a prayer between God and me, a prayer between God and me, a prayer between God and me.
So if you don't know why we're all wearing crowns, it is because in but a few hours, Britain's King Charles III will be crowned at London's Westminster Abbey. The coronation will be viewed by millions around the world, and not many of, I look around the room, not any of us were probably around to see the last one. I don't think we'll go that long until the next one. Oh, Ron saw it. Did you watch it? Did you watch it on your little postage? Okay. I don't think we will wait that long for the next coronation, but indeed it is a big event, and I myself love pomp and ceremony. Now, it might seem very foreign to us because Jews really, American Jews, really feel that there should be a separation of the national leader and the religious state. However, it turns out that the British monarchy and indeed the very coronation is patterned on Jewish history. The earliest of English kings believed that they were descendants of King David, and they loved the idea of ancient Israel, that the monarch was more than just a national leader who could do anything that he or she wanted at whim, but indeed that leader was answerable to God, the one true monarch over all. And so the British coronation rite, if you get up at 6 a.m. to watch it, is modeled on the very ascension of King Solomon as he came to his throne in the Book of Kings. Solomon was escorted to the throne by both religious and military leaders, as will happen to Charles, and was anointed by Zadok the high priest, represented tomorrow by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The choir in the Abbey will intone Handel's Zadok the priest the moment that the king is anointed with holy oil, which is brought from the olives from Israel and was blessed by clergy in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre last Friday. This will be my first real coronation to watch, and of course, we know it won't be 7 decades at all, but if we watch the crown, we know how controversial it was for King Charles to add the few innovations that he did to the ceremony. However, as a sign of the times, Charles has trimmed down the event, he's cut it in half in terms of the time, and has added many new nods to different cultures and faiths which went unacknowledged at Queen Elizabeth's coronation. Britain's chief rabbi, Sir Ephraim Mervis, and his equivalent, the people of the British Muslim community, the Sikh community, the Hindu and the Buddhist communities will step forward towards the king at the end of the ceremony and will extend to him their good wishes and blessings. And to make sure that the chief rabbi doesn't have to break Shabbat, he and his wife have been invited to spend the night before the coronation at St. James Palace so that they can walk to the Abbey, and his words will not be amplified by a microphone, which would break Shabbat. In addition, a Jew, a Muslim, a Sikh, and a Hindu will present the king with artifacts that play a part in his ceremony. They will be the ones carrying the imperial mantle, the sovereign's ring, a pair of ceremonial bracelets, and the coronation glove. There is relief among the traditionalists, however, that with all of these gestures and the nod to diversity, that the core principle underpinning of the coronation has not been eroded, that indeed the monarch will swear to defend the Protestant Christian faith of which he is the head. He, the Prince of Wales, Charles, said that he wanted to simply say that he is a defender of faith. But indeed, other heads prevailed, and he will be the defender of the faith. And so to the traditional Christian values, which are so central to the West, he indeed will be affirming the Christianity which came from the Hebrew Bible and that cemented the values in our Western culture. Melanie Phillips writes, "The idea that minority cultures can only thrive without that umbrella structure is mistaken. In its absence, groups seem to fight other groups for power, and the weakest groups go by the wayside. America, which has neither monarchy nor an established religion, nevertheless subscribes to the biblical values. The precepts and examples of ancient Israel are explicitly referenced in our American foundational institutions. Only a nation whose citizens are united by a common culture can defend those values and that territory and protect civilization itself. And so I plan to get up at 6 a.m., set my alarm, and place my tiara on my bedhead and watch King Charles' majestic coronation with the prayer that he can somehow hold it all together. And then later in the morning, as we gather to begin the second book of Maccabees, we will drink a l'chaim or two to his health and prosperity, to a peaceful reign, that peace indeed may reign throughout England, throughout his kingdom, throughout indeed the entire of Europe and our nation and our world. And so it is that we conclude our prayers of this service, remembering that he is just like all of us, a servant of the one God. And so I need all you guys who are running around to come all the way up here and open the ark for me for Aleinu. Come on, open the ark. You've done it before. And we rise for the Aleinu. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Where's my strong?
They are our lights unto the nation. Aleinu l'shameach l'adon hakol, la'tekedu la'liyotzeh b'reshit, shalom asanu k'goyei haratzot, ve'lo shamanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shalom sam chelkeinu kahem, ve'gor aleinu k'kol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlakim, hakadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. Adonai echad, Hayom U'Shemo echad. Ne'emar, as is written, ne'emar, every said through the earth, and that day God shall be one. On that day, God's name shall be one. Our rabbinic literature says there are three crowns in Israel. They are the crown of Torah, the crown of the priesthood, and the crown of royalty. The crown of the priesthood, Aaron merited it and took the crown for all of his family for all of time. The crown of royalty, David merited it and took the crown for his line for all time. But the crown of Torah is there for all generations and anyone indeed who opens the Torah, and it is as if the one who wears the crown of Torah merited all three. We learn two things from this midrash. One is that the crown of Torah is meant for all of us in every generation. For Judaism, there is no intellectual elite. On the contrary, all of us are invited to study Torah, to voice an opinion, and take part in the dialogue that has been going on for thousands of years. And the second thing we learn is that the crown of Torah is the most important, that whoever merits the crown of Torah, it is as if he or she has merited the crowns of priesthood and royalty as well. And finally, our Mishnah added, yes, there are three crowns, the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of monarchy, but the crown of a good name outweighs them all. Whether a person inherits through their family their faith, or whether a person becomes royalty by virtue of studying Torah, everyone has this good faith and this goal to strive for a good name. If a person does good deeds, then those around him can appreciate him, and her good deeds will precede her. And so we remember the names of those individuals who came before us, who left us their names, left us their memories, and left us their legacies. We remember them all. On this Shabbat, we mark the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of John D. Aldridge II, Adam Nelson, Margaret Karsh, Lily Human, Anna Cooperschmidt, Sylvia Steiner, Robert Wolfe, Louis P. Landerman, Berta Sherman, Herman Blatt, Yetta Schwartz, Barbara Gerla, and Shirley Gilbert. We mark as well the recent passing in just this last month of Bobby Kirtland, and we remember them all with our Kaddish prayer. On page 7, we rise together. We thank God for the gifts of their lives. They are indeed our crowning jewels. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shamei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shamei rabbo mivarach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudeshat b'richu. La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Da'amiran v'yalma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens bring peace down to us, to all of Israel, to all of this nation, to all of the world, as we say, amen. And we are seated.
We actually have a request for closing.
Just a few words of note. We have apocryphal study tomorrow morning with wonderful food if you'd like to join us, or you can jump on Zoom with the Zoom link. And then on Sunday, I know every young person in the room will be, they've left the room, but if they were in here, they would be very sad to know that it is our last week of Makor for this season. And we'll start up again at the very end of August. We wanted to give Mother's Day off to the mothers, believe it or not.
What are you going to do on Sunday?
There's plenty to do. Let's see, what else do I need to know? Our annual meeting, oh gosh, January 4th, June 4th, January 4th, for those who would like to wait till it's warmer outside, will be June 4th on Sunday with, right, a beautiful event. And we have Chava's Bat Mitzvah coming up and lots of good things, our annual picnic in June. So we have wonderful things to celebrate. Bill, am I missing any good and welfare, anything? Okay, so even though school's out, we're not out. We are continuing and prospering. So, and our future is strong. So our closing song is, what is it, Abba? Say it loud. What is it? What are we singing right now? Okay.
I got your text. Oh, say
Shabbat Shalom.